Hey guys, so I'm going to record myself going through this answer key. Maybe me talking through it will help some of you guys who are having a little bit of problems with solving algebraic equations. So this is going to be the 6.2, the extra practice while showing steps. So the first page has an example for you where they actually modeled the solution with an image to show what it is. But your steps didn't change. We have 3x plus 2 is equal to 6 plus x. When we are using a balance scale, what we do to one side, we do to the other. So they removed an x on both sides. So they showed that subtract x. Okay, when you subtract x from this 3x, you're left with 2x plus 2 is equal to 6. Then they removed 2 from both sides, so they showed subtract 2. And that left us with 2x is equal to 4. And the final step was to split those 4 into 2 groups to show that x equals 2. So this is just an example that you guys can have to help you out. Then it does say to check or substitute 2 into each of the equations. So we solved it and the answer was 2. So to see if it's right, it becomes 3 times 2 plus 2, which is 6 plus 2, which is 8. And that would be one side of the equation. If I replace the other side of the equation with 2 as well, it also equals 8. So because they both equal the same answer in the end, we know that our solution was correct. Okay, so if we do this question that is here, write the equation given by the picture. Well, we've got 4b's and we are adding 2, and that is equal to 2b's on that side, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so our first step is to get all of our b's only on one side. So I am going to remove these two here. Okay, so I'm subtracting 2b from this side. And what I do to one side, I am doing to the other. So I am subtracting 2b from this side as well. So after I've subtracted the 2b's from both sides, I am left with 2b plus 2, and that is equal to 6. The next step would be to remove these two. And again, what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So I am subtracting 2 and subtracting 2, giving me 2b is equal to 4. And the last step would be to split what I have into 2 groups because I have 2b's left. So if I split those into 2 groups, I am left with b is equal to 2. Okay, there's another example for you guys to kind of go through. This time, instead of using a balance scale, they're using the actual algebra tiles that you guys have seen and used in the past. In this example, the colored in ones, like the darker shaded ones, are going to be your negative, whereas the lighter tiles are going to be your positives. And then the steps are still the same. You're starting by making sure all of your variables are on the same side by doing opposite steps and going through. So if we did an actual example, I'm not going to draw it out because you're not going to be tested on drawing out, but just solving the equation algebraically. So in this case, I have a negative c on this side and 2c on this side. So it is easier to get rid of the smaller number. So the smaller of the numbers is negative c. So the opposite of negative c would be to plus, oh, they're making you do that way. Okay, they're subtracting 2 c's from this side, and they are subtracting 2 c's from this side. So if I have negative c and I'm losing 2 more c's, that gives me negative 3c plus 5 is equal to negative 4. Those cancel each other out. You're left with negative 4. So I still have negative 3c plus 5 is equal to negative 4. Now to get rid of this plus 5, I would have to subtract 5. I would have to subtract 5. Negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9, and I still have negative 3c on this side. Then the last step would be to split it so there's only one c, so I'm going to divide by negative 3. So that means that C is equal to positive 3 as two negatives equal a positive. Okay, then they have an example where they are working with a fraction. They're working with solving equivalent fractions to solve it, well, in two ways. So when it is written like this means it is a division. So the opposite of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. What I do to one side, I do to the other, which leaves me with 2a equals 18. The opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So a is equal to 9. So an equation like this doesn't necessarily have to be done as a fraction when you're doing it in steps. So if we're going to solve some of these questions, x over 4 is equal to 5. This means dividing. Opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. What I do to one side, I do to the other. X is equal to 20. So we're going to check. Substitute x with 20 in the equation. So 20 divided by 4 is equal to 5, and the right side is 5. Since they are equal, x equals 20 is correct. Okay, now we have an actual fraction question, but our denominators are already the same for us. So we are just working on getting our x all by itself. So the opposite of plus 7 out of 4 is minus 7 out of 4. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So 5 minus 7 is negative 2 out of 4, and that is going to equal to x out of 4. Now, x out of 4 is the same thing as saying 1/4 x equals negative 2 out of 4. So the opposite of 1/4 x, when it's like that, it is a multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying by a quarter is dividing by a quarter, which actually means that I am multiplying by the inverse, which gives me x is equal to negative 8 out of 4, or if I simplify, negative 2. So we're going to substitute for x negative 2 in the equation to see if it is correct. So if I have negative 2 out of 4 plus 7 out of 4, does that equal 5 out of 4? Negative 2 plus 7 is 5 out of 4. And I need both sides to equal the same, and they do. So since they are equal, x equals negative 2 is correct. Write the equation represented by the picture. Solve and record your steps algebraically. So in this picture, I have 2x plus 4 is equal to 6x. I need to have my x's on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. I can't get rid of the 6, otherwise my scale would not be balanced because I would have nothing left. So I have to move these ones. So that gives me 4 is equal to 4x. Then I need to split it into 4 groups, which means that 1 is equal to x. Solve these equations. 3w minus 2 is equal to w plus 4. So I want to have my w's all on the same side. So I am going to get rid of this w. So the opposite of positive w is minus w. And I'm doing it to both sides, which leaves me with 2w minus 2 is equal to 4. The opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. What I do to one side, I do to the other. 2w is equal to 6. Opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. W is equal to 3. Okay, for B, same things. I need to have my variables on the same side. I'm going to get rid of minus 3x. Okay, so the opposite of minus 3x is plus 3x. So I'm going to plus 3x to this side. So this leaves me with 2 minus x plus 3x gives me 2x is equal to negative 2. The opposite of 2 is minus 2, minus 2. 2x is equal to minus 2 is negative 4. I'm going to do the opposite, so it's a multiplication. The opposite is dividing. So x is equal to negative 2. Okay, if I have this, I'm going to get rid of my smaller variable. So my smaller variable is negative y. So the opposite of minus y is plus y. Plus y. So y plus y gives me 2y's. Minus 4 is equal to negative 2. Plus 4, plus 4. 2y is equal to 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Y is equal to 1. And for this next one, my smaller variable is minus j. So I'm going to plus j plus j. That leaves me with 2 is equal to negative 8 plus 5j plus 8 plus 8. 10 is equal to 5j. Divide by 5. 2 is equal to j. Solve each equation, verify the solution. So in this equation, we are getting rid of this plus 2 first. So the opposite of plus 2 is minus 2. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So this cancels out. 4 minus 2 is 2. T divided by 6 is 2, so the opposite of dividing by 6 is timesing by 6. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So T is equal to 12. If I want to verify my solution, I am saying 12 in place of the T is or plus 2. 12 divided by 6 is 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. The right side of the equation is equal to 4. So that means that T equals 12 is correct because I have the same answers. All right, so this one, again, while it looks like a fraction, it can be solved without using fractions. Again, I'm going to get rid of the thing that's furthest away from my variable, which is actually the first 5. So because there's no sign in front, it means it's positive. So the opposite of plus 5 is minus 5. What I do to one side, I will do to the other, which leaves me with W over 5 is equal to negative 3. The opposite of dividing by 5 is timesing by 5. What I do to one side, I do to the other. W is equal to negative 15. If I'm going to verify my work to make sure I'm doing it correctly, I am saying 5 plus negative 15 divided by 5. 5 plus negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. And 5 plus negative 3 is 2. My right side is supposed to be 2, so W equals negative 15 is correct. Jake tried to solve 4c minus 3 equals c plus 3 like this. Where did he make a mistake? So he started with 4c minus 3, and then he subtracted 3 because he was getting rid of this 3, so he subtracted 3 from both sides. So when he subtracted this 3 from this 3, it did equal 0. But when he said negative 3 minus 3, he should have gotten an answer of minus 6 and not nothing there. So his mistake is in his second line. So show the correct way to solve. So if we are following what it is that he did and we are starting with those, he said minus 3, minus 3. We're left with 4c minus 6 is equal to c. Then I need to subtract 4c because I need my c's on the same side. Negative 6 is equal to, this is like saying 1c minus 4, so it's negative 3c. Opposite of multiplying by negative 3 is dividing by negative 3. That means 2 is equal to c. If we put it in to see if we did it correctly, I'm going to replace the c with 2 minus 3. 8 minus 3 is 5. And I'm going to replace the c once again with the 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. Since the left side equals the right side, c equals 2 is correct. Okay, hopefully some of that made sense. Those ones didn't really work with fractions, but it should give you a little bit of a start.